Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, but we're going to head a bit north for this review, and we're returning to a brewery that you might have seen me review a couple of things from before. This is going to be review number 3 from these guys, and it's a style that we haven't touched upon from them yet. So I'm really curious to see how this one turns out, because this is a style that I've been getting really into again recently. So for this one we are going to go to Skellefteå, which is about halfway between Luleå and Umeå, kind of in Nörbotten county, and we're having a look at my third beer from Fermenteriet. This one is their lager. It comes in at 5% ABV, and this one is a pale lager, Helles lager, light lager, however you want to call it. So yeah, really curious to see how this beer turns out. The last beers that I've had from Fermenteriet were the black IPA and the double IPA. I think it was the black IPA that I had first, if memory serves me correctly, but both of those were, you know, pretty nice and pretty solid beers actually. So I'm really curious to see how these guys do when it comes to a lager. One, because I've been getting into this style quite a lot recently. I've been telling you in various videos that I've been going through a lager phase, and two, lager beers are a little bit more technically complex for the brewers actually to do. So yeah, hopefully they've got a nice example of this one. I've had some really nice lagers recently from various breweries around Sweden, so the benchmark has been set pretty high actually, but hopefully, as I say, it turns out to be a good beer, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on it as well. Definitely nice to return to these guys after what has apparently been a year when I was checking my brewery note files earlier on. So yeah, let's see how we got on then. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Fermenteriet before. You will see more beers from these guys at some point in the near future, I'm sure. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. And if you are watching from the Skellefteå area, do let me know if there are any other breweries up there, because this is the only one I think I know from that town, but I know there's various breweries dotted around in Nörbotten county, but maybe I just don't know the breweries to search for them on Systembolaget and things. So yeah, give me your local knowledge if you can. I know there's 600 breweries in Sweden these days, so there will be many that I've not reviewed things from yet, so I would like to try and make that list a little bit smaller if you like. But yeah, let's go on to the history section then, on to my brewery notes. So Fermenteriet, as I've told you before, are based in Kurjoviken in Skellefteå in Nörbotten county, as I said, about halfway between Luleå and Umeå on the east coast of Sweden. But these guys are based in a building that used to belong to Karlholmens Malt Brewery. But the company was founded back in 2018, and it's got 5 co-owners. This is Martin Åkerström, Stefan Wallin, Urban Lindegren, Michael Jakobsen, and also Victor Jakobsen as well. So out of the group, it's only Victor who actually had experience in brewing, and when they started up, you know, he had been home brewing for about 4 years prior to that. So he started off as the only full-time worker at the brewery, and he had to quickly train the others so that they could also take part in the brewing process and help him out, because, you know, running a brewery is a very labour-intensive process, especially if you're doing a lot of the bottling by hand and all of these kind of things. But they started off with a 400-litre brewery, and they are at the moment, from what I understand, aiming for an annual output of around 50,000 litres. I couldn't find any information to say whether that was what they are producing now. There's not too many articles available on these guys on Beer News or in the local newspapers and stuff like that. So yeah, I was struggling to find stuff on these guys a lot, but that's the latest information that I have, is that they were aiming to produce around 50,000 litres of beer. And as of August 2020, when I'm filming this in September, sorry. As of September 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 16 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. The ones that I've had, like I said, were the black IPA and the double IPA. I think the other ones that have been through Systembolaget are the red ale and also the regular IPA. So yeah, I'll keep an eye out on what these guys are doing. I don't know if this particular release was a re-release of this beer. I would assume that it is, to be honest with you, because You know, most breweries do have a lager these days, but yeah, I would assume that this one was a re-release. Either that or this beer's been available in local restaurants and things like that, but you know, it maybe hadn't been available in Systembolaget before. I'm not sure. Again, if you do follow this brewery a little bit closer than me, let me know in the comment section below. But yeah, that's all the information I was able to find on Fermenteriet for the moment. If you want to know a little bit more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and have a taste of this one then. So as you can see, this one is really nicely presented. Again, it's got this kind of portrait style artwork on it that we've become accustomed to from Fermenteriet. It has a little bit of stuff on the side here, so let's see what that says. This beer is brewed with German malt and hops and then aged for a long time in a tank to allow the yeast to go to work in CAM, and then it gives you, and for the beer basically to develop a nice, to develop flavour, if you like. That's what it's saying. So yeah, it's unfiltered and unpasteurised as well. So it's saying, and the artwork on this one is Elba Wallin, apparently. So yeah, nicely presented, as I say. So yeah, I wonder if Elba Wallin is related to Stefan Wallin, but the spelling, W and V, although W and V are a little bit kind of, there's always a bit of confusion between these letters in Swedish actually. So yeah, this one, as you can see, plain black bottle cap on this one, but again, nice artwork, and this is the symbol for Fermenteriet as well. I'm probably putting the stress on that word wrong, so it probably sounds there. That's one of the difficulties you always have if you're not a native speaker of Swedish, is where exactly to put the stress. So Fermenteriet, I don't know if that's the exact right stress, but yeah, 5% lager beer this one. Let's get it out and into the glass. So yeah, this one I'm guessing will be a little bit like a Helles or a Pilsner, to be honest. So as I've told you in various videos before, there are various different styles of lager beers. You know, you have, in Germany, you have the Helles, which is the blonde lager, the Dunkel, which is the kind of brown mahogany lager, and then you have the Schwarzbier. You also have the Doppelbock as well, which is essentially a very, very strong Dunkel. In the Czech Republic, you have the Svetli, which is the blonde lager, the Letzak, which is the amber lager. Kind of that's sort of it's almost kind of similar to the Vienna lagers, if you like. Then you have the Cherny, which is the equivalent of the German Dunkel, and you have the Tmavi, which is the equivalent of the German Schwarzbier, the black lager. I believe the Märzen is also a lager beer as well, and the Bock, I can't remember, out of the Bock's a lager beer. I honestly can't remember. There is one other type of lager beer. Kulsch is not a lager though, although it does have many similar characteristics, and Altbier is not a lager beer either. But yeah, and you've got the Dortmund, the Helles, which is kind of, you know, in some ways it's a little bit similar to the Munich Helles. The Munich ones, from what I remember, are a bit more bready, whereas the Dortmunder ones are a little bit more kind of hoppy. I do need to try and review a few more of the kind of classic German Altbiers, Kulches and Dortmunders for you on the channel here. But yeah, as you can see and as you would expect from this one then, this is poured a lovely kind of bright pale golden straw. You can see there's about a finger and a half ahead on this one. To some degree it's a little bit fluffy, but to another degree it does have a good little bit of bumpiness to it. There's quite a lot of carbonation in this one. The glass was cleaned, but this beer, I'm guessing you can see with the amount of head that this has, the carbonation is pretty active. It was also very full to the top of this actually. It was very, very full, this bottle, so maybe that's playing a factor there as well. A lot of the gas still in the actual liquid itself. But yeah, as I say, if we shine the light through this, it does actually look very, very nice, this one. So yeah, it looks pretty similar to what you would expect from a Munich Helles, a Dortmund Helles. Sometimes you might even get you probably would get Pilsners that look like this as well. Pilsner, of course, is a lager beer, but it originates in the Czech Republic, which is the Bohemia, which was a mix. You know, that land was always a mix of Czechs, ethnic Czechs, and ethnic Germans. So yeah, it was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire in the 1840s, I want to say it was, when the Pils style was developed by a German brewer, actually, who went over there. But yeah, looks really nice, this one. So let's have a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Nothing particularly surprising about the appearance of this beer when you consider the style. So yeah, I have to say this beer smells pretty damn authentic, and one of the things we always do with the lager beers is that we rate them on authenticity, because you don't expect this style to go mental on the hops or on the malts or anything like that. These beers are designed to be crisp drinkable, and in my mind the way that we should rate a Pilsner beer or a Helles or whatever kind of lager it is on the closeness to the original German or Czech variants. But I'll say straight away, with the aroma of this one, it is pretty promising. You get that lovely kind of white bready note out of this one, the German malt in there kind of shining through. I wouldn't be surprised if this is Weirmann malt in there. It's got a little bit of that smoothness, but I think there's quite a bit of Munich malt in there as well because of the level of breadiness that you get out of this one. It smells lovely actually. Yeah, so lovely kind of white bready note to it, very, very smooth. Nice wee bit of a kind of biscuity malt as well at the same time. A little bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity malt in there. But yeah, mainly quite bready, I have to say. It's really quite a bready malt that you get out of this one, rather than anything else. It is kind of straight up white bready, a little bit of crispness. You can smell a wee touch of that kind of just crispness that you'll sometimes get. I do wonder if there's a wee touch of Pilsner malt in this. But yeah, it really does. It definitely smells more like a Helles than it does a Pilsner, to be quite honest with you. And you know, everyone always associates thinks that the term lager and Pilsner or Pilsen is interchangeable, but there's not. You know, the Helles lagers are usually more bready and smooth. As I say, the typical Munich lager is a lot smoother than the Pilsners are. Of course, the Czech beers, I always find, the Czech lagers always tend to be a bit thicker and a bit more bready than the German ones. The German ones are always a little bit more crisp as well, in my experience, but within that, the Helles lagers are always a bit more bready than the Pilsners. Different types of malt, of course, but yeah, the aroma of this is very, very nice. If you know the Munich Helles, you know, like the Hofbräus, the Hofbräus, I'm trying to, gone out of my head now, the Löwenbräus, all of these kind of things. If you know the typical Munich ones, this one actually smells very, very authentic. So you've got a nice little bit of light earthiness in there, which you'd expect from the likes of Hallertau and Tettnanger hops, these German no hops. A lovely, quite bright and smooth earthiness. Nice little bit of floral aromaticity, bit of lighter grassiness in there as well, and you've got these kind of typical appley, peary esters coming out of the beer, which is really quite nice. And I've just noticed there's a wee bit of sediment sitting there on the top of the foam, so I'm wondering, was it bottle conditioned? Yeah, it was bottle conditioned. And that's kind of, I'm not sure how common that is for lagers these days, but I mean, with very small breweries like this, it's not surprising. So yeah, that would probably also explain the level of carbonation you've got in this one if it's, you know, bottle conditioned beer. But yeah, the aroma that comes out of this one is really nice. It's got a lovely kind of bright floral quality to it, some lighter grassy notes. You've got those appley, peary esters that you expect to this style as well. A little bit of a citrusy zest to it, and just a wee bit of a kind of almost gooseberry type note as well. But yeah, the aroma that comes out of this one, I think, is it's pretty nice. It really leans towards the bready side of things and the malty side of things rather than being more hoppy or anything. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. So this one is simply called Lager, and it comes to you from Fermenteriet in Skellefteå in Nörbotten on the east coast, in the northeast, I guess you could say, of Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange Skål. That's nice. That is good. It's a good lager beer, this one, but I will say the carbonation is just a little touch too high on it. So yeah, maybe a little conditioning issue with this one. It could also be that I've had it in the fridge for about, I've had it in the fridge for about a month, so it could be my fault as well. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt on this one. But I would say that in terms of flavour and things like that, this one is pretty spot on. So well done to Fermenteriet for this. I would say, yeah, that is one of the things that you run the risk with when it comes to lager beers. They're one of the styles that I would say, yeah, you can't really bottle condition these, because otherwise they just become sort of too carbonated and things like that. And this one's just, I think I'm getting this one just on the edge of when it's about to do that. And you can see, look, these bubbles are still going up there quite aggressively. So yeah, it's kind of part. I would say, you know, this is one thing. It's probably my fault for leaving the beer a little bit longer, in fairness, but then it would have been sitting with Systembolaget, I guess, for a couple of weeks before it's gone out there. But that is one thing, yeah, when it comes to lagers, I think bottle conditioning is not a good idea. So yeah, maybe that's something the brewery needs to look at a bit. But anyway, that's a minor thing in terms of the flavour and stuff of this beer and the authenticity of the style. It is pretty spot on. So you know, well done to them for this. They've pulled off another solid beer here. And the other, that's like I said about the other beers. The other beers are really solid. They're kind of true to style. They give you everything that you want from them, and they are well crafted. And you can't really ask for much more than that, in fairness, from a brewery. So yeah, this is nice. Let's try and break down the flavour then. So middle of your palate then, you can feel that nice kind of white bready wheaty quality, that blankets the middle of the tongue there. Towards the back of the palate, I'd say the breadiness is a little bit kind of thicker. It does have a bit of more kind of biscuity sweetness in there as well. Like in the middle third of your palate, you can feel it's a little bit lighter. Then on top of that, you've got this slightly kind of oily, biscuity flavoured layer in there, which is quite nice. Like I said, like a little bit like a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. But when you go to the back third of the tongue, you can just feel it thickening up a little bit. You do get more of a you do get a little bit more of a kind of breadiness, and you get, I want to say there is a bit of Pilsner malt in this. You really get a little bit of Pilsner malt and that kind of crispness that you get on the kind of back third of the tongue there. You can really feel that there. But yeah, the flavour of this beer is, as I say, pretty bang on actually. I really like how this one, how it goes together. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink that again. I'd love to try it on tap and see what it's like actually. I think you get a lovely smoothness out of this one. But yeah, this is definitely, it's got a good balance between the kind of crispness, the breadiness, and a little bit of the sweetness that you would expect of the style. It's almost got a little bit of everything, to be honest. It's got a little bit of the hellish breadiness, it's got a little bit of the sweetness you might expect from like a Pilsner as well, and it's also got a bit of that kind of Pilsner crispness in there. So it's almost like a hybrid of a hellish Pilsner for me actually. So I quite like that, to be honest. So yeah, when they say lager, I think that's probably a good name to give it rather than commit to Helles or Pilsner or whatever. Just to call it a lager beer, I think is probably a safe bet. But yeah, the malt base of this one is quite nice, and I like the further you go into the aftertaste, the kind of crispness evolves out of this one a little bit more as well. But yeah, it's nice. I do like that. It becomes a little bit more grainy in the middle of the palate the further on you go as well. But in the back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness out of this one. As you move further forward along the side of the palate there, the earthiness comes out a little bit more, a wee touch herbal maybe as well, but as you reach the front corners of the palate, you can feel there's a nice little bit of floral aromaticity out of this one. Just going from the flavours that I get on the hops of this, I wouldn't be surprised, this beer does have a good degree of spiciness to it. I wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe, you know, like Pearl or Hercules or one of the slightly stronger alpha acid German hops in here. I wouldn't be surprised if that's in here, rather than just simply, you know, Hallertau Mittelfrüh or you know, the Tettnanger hops or something like that. I think this one's maybe just got a little bit more bitterness to it. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's Pearl, you know, or Hersbrucker, or how would you say, the Hercules or something like that that's in here. There are a few other ones that don't spring to mind. Zeus, I think, is another German hop, if I remember rightly, that's got a bit more bitterness to it. So yeah, it's something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of these slightly stronger German hops. But yeah, the floral notes on this are quite nice, and round the front curve of the palate you get a nice little bit of lighter grassiness. You do feel on this one that the bitterness develops a little bit more the further you go into the aftertaste. This beer does get bitter, get more bitter later on. On the front third of the tongue, you do get that little oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters push their way out of the beer. For me, this one, you can feel the kind of malty biscuity sweetness just pushing its way forward out of this one. But yeah, you get a nice little bit of kind of darker citrusy note towards the back of that front third of the palate, but as you move further forward it does gradually brighten up a little bit. You start to get some appley, kind of more peary esters out of it, and then on the front part of the palate it's maybe just a little touch kind of gooseberry like or something like that. But yeah, on the very edge of the palate you start to get those kind of strong, slightly zesty, kind of almost lemony type flavours out of the beer. So it's kind of interesting that the way that the fruits evolve on this one. But yeah, this is one of these beers that gets a bit more zesty and a little bit more kind of bitter, I think, the further you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, it is nice. It is quite a solid lager beer, that one. As I say, I would love to try it on tap and see how it comes across, because I think if you got a slightly smoother mouthfeel like this, you know, the carbonation issue is kind of my fault a little bit, but yeah, if you did get a slightly smoother mouthfeel out of this one, I think it would come across really nicely. And it's just the beer, the actual beer that's behind this is really quite nice actually. So, you know, thumbs up to Fermenteriet once again. There's a good selection of lagers in Sweden these days. I mean, I've had the Pilsner, you know, the Fin Pilsner and Skånsk Pilsner from Hyllie Brewery. Who else have I had lagers from recently? You know, I've been really impressed with some of these lagers that I've been reviewing over the last little while. It's been great. So yeah, this one is quite nice. There could be a bit of an American hop in here. This one, I would compare this maybe more to the Fin Pilsner from Hyllie Brewery. If you like the Fin Pilsner, you will enjoy this one actually. This one's got a little bit more malty sweetness to it than that one did, but there could be, the other thing that could be a possibility of this is it does have an American hop as well in it, as well as the German hops in there. That could be the other possibility that's given it that little bit more bitter kick actually, which is interesting. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel, then I think we've covered all we really need to with the flavour of this beer. I think it's pretty solid. It's straight up. It is authentic, as I say. But in terms of the mouthfeel, it's quite yeah. In terms of the mouthfeel, it's quite it's still quite light-bodied. The carbonation does have a lot of crispness to it, but again, it's slightly over-carbonated, as we've talked about fairly extensively so far. We won't say more, but yeah, it's quite an oily lager beer, this one. I do find this one a little bit more oily. In terms of hoppy bitterness, I do think this one is probably about the 30, maybe even 35 IBUs. It's got a little bit more bitterness to it. It comes out a little bit later on. The malt base has a degree of smoothness to it, a degree of crispness, and a slight degree of sweetness to it. I think there's a bit of Pilsner, a bit of Helles, and other things in there, which is quite nice. It finds a good kind of mixture of everything you'd expect of a sort of blonde, lighter coloured lager. And yeah, the fruits are quite nice and slightly oily as well, which I think blends in well with the sweeter elements of the beer. So yeah, this is another interesting one from Fermenteriet. I'd love to try this on tap, as I said. Pardon me, I think they have got a nice beer with this, but I think the issue that it has is, I think the bottle conditioning for this particular style of beer is not so good. But then again, it is partially my fault, I think, for leaving this one towards the end of the month. So I need to be a bit more, I need to be a bit quicker, I guess you could say, in reviewing the lager reviews of this. I didn't realise it was bottle conditioned though, but yeah, what can you do? Still been a nice one to review. I've still enjoyed it nonetheless, and yeah, I will be keeping an eye out and seeing what these guys are releasing there. I'll try to review, I need to see about reviewing their regular IPA, and I'll see about the red ale at some point as well, because I have enjoyed the beers I've had from these guys so far. So yeah, nice to try another style from these guys. Always cool to review new beers from Fermenteriet as well, and ones from different places in Sweden. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed my take on this beer as well. So let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Fermenteriet as well. I would recommend this beer if you like the Hyllie Fin Pilsner. If you like a more kind of crisp and bitter sort of lager beer, this is one that you are going to enjoy. But at the same time, it does have a nice degree of sweetness to it as well. So it's pretty nicely done actually, a bit of everything there. Thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. This one was the lager, simply called lager, from Fermenteriet in Skellefteå, Nörbotten here in Sweden. Slange, skål, cheers.